Welcome to You Decide. I'm your host, Errol Lewis. The founder of the Guardian Angels, Curtis Sliwa, is the Republican nominee for mayor. He is using the familiar red sateen beret, the jacket, the whole look. But he's somebody who's got a lot of history. He ran for mayor 4 years ago, and he is making some real waves this time around. We've got a lot to talk about, so let's get to it. Congratulations on coming this far. Good to see you.
Well, it's about time that people begin recognizing that, because this is a marathon, not a sprint. And if you remember, so much of this campaign was involved in roller derby. Drop out. Every day, candidates talking about dropping out. If you're Zoran Mandami, it's a great day.
Right.
Because you're not hitting them on the issues. You're worried about who's going to drop out. Yeah. And with the announcement that we get matching funds, more than Zoran Mandami, who was great at fundraising, Eric Adams once again denied straw donors, and Cuomo didn't even submit. He's only got about $1 million left. He's running out of cash fast. So we're in good shape. We have momentum. In fact, if you look at a compilation of the last 4 polls, you even came to that conclusion. I was watching you the other night, and you said, wow, in a 4-person race, he has a chance to win.
Yeah, well, of course. We'll do the math in just a minute. And by the way, here's what I wrote 4 years ago. This is one of my last columns for the New York Daily News. The Republican candidate for mayor is a man who has spent a lifetime tangling with street crooks, politicians, mobsters, and bureaucrats. New Yorkers who complain that all politicians are dull and predictable have no excuse this year. It was true then, it's true now. We got a colorful guy. We got a guy who's from the streets, who's fought with all kinds of people up and down the income ladder, people in all walks of life that you have taken on, and some causes that you have championed, and I want to hear about all of them. But yes, you are a viable candidate. You are the Republican nominee. You got, 28% last time?
28%, and this time, unlike last time during the lockdown and COVID, and you, Errol, know how difficult it is to get signatures, valid signatures to qualify in normal times. Yeah. We submitted 25,000 signatures for an animal welfare line. The Democrats said, brilliant. That's right. Your wife, Nancy, and you're dedicated to rescuing animals. You know who knocked us off the line?
Who?
Our fellow Republicans. Because they didn't understand the concept. Remember, they were making fun of me. Right. Now, all of a sudden, it's very much in vogue. We see nationally, locally, even Powers to his defense, who lost in the Democratic primary for borough president, Democrat, but as a city council person, wants legislation to protect the bodega cats. Because, the departments of health come in and they write up fines and they threaten to bring the cat to animal care and control. And now Democrats and Republicans are meeting. Horse carriage issues, a whole wide range of animal welfare issues, and we have a special line, Protect Animals. In fact, it was the first independent line registered. While Cuomo and Adams were arguing who would be first, we got the required signatures. So actually, the first independent line you'll see is Protect Animals, no-kill shelters, and jail animal abusers, like we saw last week, where that young man dragged and kicked a pit bull to death in South Ozone Park, set him on fire. And then the DA there, I know very well, Melinda Katz. Why did you cut him loose? No cash bail. Thank you, Andrew Cuomo. Every time it's a no cash bail issue, it's the result of then Governor Cuomo, who's doubled down on no cash bail in this campaign.
In a case like that, when somebody has tortured an animal, what I think of first and foremost is that this is associated with a psychological propensity to commit violence against humans, and that this is a warning sign, among other things. What's your sort of legislative and political angle when it comes to that kind of abuse?
Well, first off, you're absolutely correct. Study after study indicates that if you don't catch somebody at a young age who's torturing animals and give them therapy, there's a very good chance they're going to go on to violate human beings' rights. And that's this young man is a graduate of Canisius College, good university, good top-rate basketball player, sort of like a little bit like Michael Vick. Nobody saw it coming. But probably people close to him understood this guy was already torturing animals. So I think there has to be severity in the law. First off, the state of New York, it's a state issue, they consider an animal property. A Pew Research study recently said 97% of Americans now, whether they voted for Harris or Trump, view their pets as family members. Everything has changed the dynamic, so we have to try to pressure the state and clearly have an animal welfare bureau, which will be housed right in the basement of City Hall, rapid response. So when there are animal welfare issues, the police will understand it's a priority of the mayor. The DAs will understand it's a priority of the mayor, because right now it's not. Right now it's not.
Very interesting, very interesting. The New York Times recently did a profile on you suggesting that you're going to take off the red beret. And they show a little vignette of you going to meet with Kathy Wild, the business partnership. And she literally didn't recognize you without the thing. As a branding exercise, the beret is part of you. You are part of it. I'm assuming you're going to keep that beret.
No. I realize there's a segment of society where the beret is an impediment. They see Che Guevara. There's no way I can change that in their mind, especially if they're baby boomers.
Right.
So with Catherine Wild, I said, okay, I have a one-on-one meeting with Catherine, who's going to arrange a meeting for me in September of all the business leaders. And I go in without my red beret, and she realized I'm the only one there. It's Curtis Sliwa. And she felt more comfortable. Prior to that, I had to meet with the Steam Fitters Union. You know, they were disappointed in Cuomo. They felt he didn't run a good campaign. So I was interviewed by the executive board. I walked into the union hall, and the executive director said, you know, Curtis, we have a rule. There's a flag in here, no hats. I said, I was born into this world without a beret. When I die, I won't have a beret. I can take my beret off. So
okay.
Right now, let me take it off.
Okay.
But when I'm in the streets and subways, it's imperative I have this, because I'm not just campaigning. First of all, people can identify me, but also if they're in distress, like emotional, disturbed people and homeless people, they see the beret.
Sure.
And they'll immediately come to me for help, like they do to the Guardian Angels.
Yeah, I mean, you've put over 50 years into building up that brand. You don't just walk away from that. Does the city need saving? What is the appeal of a Curtis Sliwa if crime is actually coming down?
Well, the city would like you to believe it's our perception. So we hear that from Eric Adams and Jessica Tisch. It's not a perception. You go to all 350 neighborhoods, of which there are. I've yet to find a person who says, Curtis, you know, you got it wrong. I feel so much safer in my community in the subways. So the reality is people do not feel comfortable. They feel threatened, especially in the subways. Women are the majority of the workers now, and in many instances, they're raising their families. They are the ones who spend the money. They're afraid to ride the subways for one reason. The pervs who are out there wanting to prove that they don't suffer from erectile dysfunction. Now, you're not worried about that, Errol. I'm not worried about that. They don't bother us. They go up to the women.
Sure.
And the women don't have enough money to Uber and cab it, and especially Eric Adams. I'm the nightlife mayor. Most of the people who work nightlife are women, a lot of them single parents who have to get home by 6 in the morning to get the kids up, to get them off to school. And if they feel that the subways are unsafe for them or the buses, you're going to have a huge problem. And we are already, because these people come up to me. I'm always in the subway. So it's like a focus group. Once those doors close, people are giving me the finger. They're patting me so hard on the back, I got to go for a chiropractic adjustment. But they're grilling me. It's a focus group. And it's women, predominantly women, who are complaining about how they don't feel safe in the streets and the parks, and especially the subways.
So you've talked about hiring another 7,000 cops. What else would you do?
I think more importantly, we got to bring the homeless outreach unit back. Now, this was a casualty when Bill de Blasio and some of the other council members were dancing the horror and the tarantella. Yes, Richie Torres, you too. I know you scrubbed it from your social network. They're all reinventing themselves. Brad Landa, Justin Brennan. No, yes. You voted to strip $1 billion. You never put it back. So I think the homeless outreach unit was eliminated. I worked with these men and women with the Guardian Angels. They knew all the directors of the shelters. They knew a lot of the clients. They knew the public safety officers in the shelters. Some are Department of Homeless Service, some are private security. So they could work the ins and outs. When they eliminated that unit, which existed in each borough, they really hurt the efforts of dealing with the emotionally disturbed and the homeless, and I would immediately put that back into place.
Well, you're answering my next question, which is, does the NYPD need any kind of reorganization? Because what I have heard throughout this campaign is that any suggestion that you do something different, like take the strategic response group and maybe split its duties so that it's not fighting terrorists and also policing, First Amendment political protest, is met with, you don't understand the cops, you're going to destroy the NYPD, you're wrong on public safety. And it turns into, an argument between either give the NYPD more money, more overtime, and more of whatever they want and absolutely leave them alone, or you want to destroy them. And clearly there's something in the middle here.
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Like
Look, I'm down with the guys and gals all the time. First off, they have a hat. Put the hat on. I can't see you in a crowd. I demand all guardian angels put your beret on, because that is the identifiable symbol if you need help. I can't tell you how many times I've come upon a cluster of police, and they're working hard, but they're not readily identifiable from a distance. And then number two, why this all the time?
Yeah. Well, but that's their new memo book, right? They actually have to key in a lot of information.
Well, this is Curtis.
But I'm telling you.
Yeah, they're putting in, this morning at Denny's, I had the Grand Slam, and why do you need two looking at there are certain things that they are going to have to do, but I think the majority of my focus is the subways. They don't have a moving patrol on the trains any longer. Right. I realize you can't have a single cop any longer on, but you're too many emotionally disturbed persons, too many potential problems. But they should be going up and down the moving trains, because that's where a lot of the problems are.
Sure.
And you don't have time to get off the train and find police on a platform or up near the turnstile. And then fare evasion. Everybody goes, Zoran Mandami wants everybody to ride the buses for free. Hey, half the people don't pay to begin with.
I mean, that's a good point.
We're already halfway
seriously,
there.
it's something like 47% fare evasion, I think, on the buses.
I was on Highland Boulevard in Staten Island because I went across the Verrazano Bridge on the bus where you get off at 86 and 4th Avenue on the R. I was thinking, excuse me, is anybody paying yet? And the bus driver said, Curtis, don't start a problem. We're not permitted to say anything.
Wow.
And so it's learned behavior. If you see other people not paying the fare, you're not. And then we've hired this allied security group, mostly young men and women employed, and they're bracing themselves, against the gate.
Yeah.
Meantime, they're flying over the turnstile, under the turnstile. And I asked them, we're not permitted to stop anybody.
Yeah, they can't give out summonses. They can't arrest anybody. They can't really do anything.
Basically,
right? They don't even call for help, right?
It's like in football, the blocking bed. You block
like
so
rugby,
they kick it. It is so ridiculous, and the MTA is losing so much money. And now we have congestion pricing. I'm the only candidate opposed to that. And I'll tell you why. I've seen the results. Just walking the streets. Go across from City Hall. There are 9 storefronts closed. Not because they're going to demolish the building. I've talked to a lot of those merchants who had to get out of their lease. Why are you leaving now? I don't have enough foot traffic. I have to pay a lease every month. I don't have enough foot traffic. It's better that we close up. And that's happening all in the area where there's congestion pricing. So I'm opposed to that. That's an additional tax against a lot of the blue-collar working class. And I'm also the mayor of the outer boroughs. Everybody is Manhattan-centric. I get it. But they're forgetting people in Brooklyn and Queens, the Bronx and Staten Island, the bulk of the population, blue-collar working class. You have now this charter revision, Eric Adams, it's like he's gone wild, city of yes on steroids. We have residential communities where people, especially first-generation immigrants, put every nickel, dime, and penny they have into a private home, 1, 2, 3, 4 family. Now they want to come in, 40-story apartment building, no parking, by the way. You don't have to talk to the local council person. You don't have to go to the community board. You don't have to observe any zoning restrictions. All power is in City Hall. I remember as a kid, PS 114, Alan Topol, my teacher said, Robert Wagner, the mayor, has created community boards so that he could actually give power to the communities. And he explained it. Civics. Errol, we had civics.
Yeah.
They don't teach. I have 3 sons in the public school system. Did they teach you civics? What's that? Did they teach you history? Very little. Did they teach you current events? No, Daddy. Why not? They don't want to hurt anybody's feelings.
Let's talk about housing. We can't get out of the current housing emergency without building a lot of new units. Do you agree with that?
I disagree right away.
Okay.
We have about 100,000 apartments warehoused. Let's start with the apartments we do control, NYCHA. Right. I'm in the projects all the time.
Sure.
6,000 empty apartments. How do you justify that? when so many people are on waiting lists, sometimes for years. So that's number one. Number two, you have rent stabilized, about 35,000 that are empty. They're warehouse, they're mothballed. You got to sit down with the landlord, small, mid-sized, big stuff. Why are they off the market? What can we do to loosen these up? And then in the outer boroughs, a lot of times somebody dies or they move to Florida, unfortunately, or you finally get a squatter out of there after 5, 6, 7 years in tenant landlord court, and they decide, I'm not going to rent the apartment. That happens a lot. I'd rather take a loss than have a nightmare tenant. So you got to meet with all these people and say, what can we do to satisfy your needs and get these readily available apartments out on the market while starting to look at space that the city controls that we can build on. But no parklands, no wetlands. I see Eric Adams announced where the old Flushing Airport was. He wants to take wetlands, parkland, and put casinos on park. Hey, parklands are for people. I would increase the budget for parks by an additional 1% instead of what Adams has done, which is slash the budget. We're a city of 9 million people when you add all the people who come and go. We need more parkland, and we need to preserve our wetlands. I want the developers and the realtors to stay out of those areas.
I want to ask you about some of the other business community, but just with housing, even if we converted or put people in every one of the units you're talking about, 100,000, 35,000, 6,000 in NYCHA, whatever it may be, that's still a drop in the bucket. I mean, the estimates I've seen are that this city needs, in the range of 500,000 to 700,000 units. And as fast as we can possibly bring them online.
So we give these big fat cat developers who wine, dine, and pocket line, in this case Adams and Cuomo, 40-year tax abatement. By the time all is said and done, there are no affordable apartments. Look at what happened down in Brooklyn. The big battle was over, we're going to build a stadium right here on Atlantic, Barclays Square. There was supposed to be all these affordable, and every year the developers delayed. They were fined. They didn't pay their fines, but they kept contributing to the politicians. No. If you say there's going to be affordable housing, there's got to be a hell of a price to pay when you don't deliver, because they figure in 40 years from now, Curtis will be dead.
Sure.
Most of the people here will be dead, and they'll still be not paying taxes. Why did we give them a 40-year tax abatement when we know there probably in the end will not be that many affordable units?
So it sounds like you're going to strike a harder bargain with them when they do look for assistance from the city in building affordable units.
Oh, and also these lithium warehouse, ion battery warehouses, 38 in Staten Island, 12 in Brooklyn, 8 in Queens, 4 in the Bronx, not one in Manhattan, which sucks up most of the electricity. How come you're not putting them in industrial areas? I asked them, and they said, well, the price of real estate is too much. You're putting them in residential areas? When they go on fire, they have to burn themselves out. The outer boroughs are in a rage. They got speed cameras. They get fined. You got to buy a garbage can. The mayor wouldn't even subsidize garbage can. I never in my life. You got to buy a garbage can from the city, and it's in a company in North Carolina with no bid contract. Who's getting the kickback?
Wow.
And it's supposed to be rat-free. First ones they put out in Williamsburg,
right through it,
the
right?
rats chewed right through them. And I'm not talking the two-legged rats. I'm talking the four-legged rats.
Well, no, you're right. I remember when they announced it, I was like, look, on the one hand, I like containerization. We shouldn't just be pouring our garbage on the sidewalk. On the other hand, it's like you just handed me a $60 bill.
Yeah.
Which is, I happen to have those kind of cans already, so I didn't have to buy a new one, but for everybody else.
And they've taken half the trash cans on the corners away.
Yeah.
That was Jessica Tisch. And when you go on some of the subway stations, some genius at J Street Borough Hall said, if we don't put garbage cans on the platform, people will carry their garbage topside and find the can.
Yeah, this ain't Tokyo. Yeah.
And they probably paid millions of dollars to that consultant, and there's garbage everywhere.
No, they do that in, South Korea or, Tokyo, some other city, not here. That's for sure.
Yeah, this ain't Tokyo or Korea, I can assure you.
Let's talk about the business climate. What is your plan to make sure, give me a preview of what you're going to tell the big businesses. These are the major employers. They employ together about 1 million people. What's your plan to make sure the city is lively and prosperous and profitable?
Well, the main thing is the millennials and Gen Zers who, yes, wake up. They are the majority of the voters and the majority of the population. I'm a baby boomer. I have to keep reminding baby boomers we're no longer in control. They control the votes as they should, and they are the majority of the population. So let's use my wife, Nancy, the animal rescuer. Top of the month, she gets hit with the student loan. She's an attorney. Don't pay your student loan, they'll revoke your license. So you got to pay that first. Then you got to pay rent. You'll never be able to get a mortgage on a house, never be able to buy a car. You're living sometimes with 4 fellow students of yours at the age of 35. You thought you left the dormitories back in college, you know, when you did your 4 years in your grad school. No wonder why these millennials and Gen Zers are so angry, and they have a right, because we sold them a dream, the American dream. Get a good education, make $150,000 a start. And now they're living in a dormitory, and they got nothing at the end of the month. The cost of living is skyrocketing. If I were their age, I'd be pissed off, too. Zorhan, like Bernie Sanders, would be very attractive, as he was to my wife, Nancy, when he first ran against Hillary. She was a Bernie, burn, baby, burn. Then was upset that he capitulated to Hillary, who really lost the primary but got the superdelegates. And then she became a Trump voter. I wasn't even a Trump voter. But she went from one to the other. And that's what some young people have done.
Right. So they're feeling in a radical way that the system is not working for them. So it's kind of like, look, I tried Bernie Sanders. That didn't work. Let me try Donald Trump. It can be that wide of a swing. And they're landing, a lot of them now, on Zohran Mamdani. How do you convince them to come to Curtis Sliwa?
Well, first of all, you have to go in the neighborhoods there. So I noticed Cuomo, he barely goes out. Everything is so controlled. You know, he's in a little, I call him Bubble Boy. He's, you know, everything controlled, antiseptic. He thinks he's still governor. He thinks he's, you know, Prince Cuomo. He's not. He's a candidate who got kicked, his butt got kicked in the primary by Zohran Mamdani. And then you have Eric Adams. You know, the only way to get him sometimes in a neighborhood is open up a new nightclub. He can do the ribbon cutting, and he'll be there till the break of dawn. You got to go into Long Island City. You got to go into the Lower East Side. You got to go into Astoria, that AOC declared to be the People's Republic of America, because every elected official there is either DSA or Working Families Party or both. And that's why I spend the bulk of my time. My entire campaign team are millennials and Gen Zers. Now, I'm not going to say that I can match, you know, person for person with Zohran. But if you're out in the community, you will find a number of the majority of the millennials and Gen Zs, they haven't made up their mind, but nobody ever talks to them. It's like, why are there so many Democrats in New York City? The first thing they'll say, I've never met a Republican before. No Republican ever knocked on my door. You know, Errol, I can go into neighborhoods where the only Republican they've ever seen is Abraham Lincoln on a $5 bill and be accepted because of the work I've done with the Guardian Angels. Now, my job in a 4-person race, which is going to be close, is to convince them you can vote for me. Now, you can't vote for a Republican, fine. Vote for me on the Protect the Animals line. And they all seem to light up on that. Well, what does that involve? No-kill shelters, put animal abusers in jail. So whether you're a Trumper or you voted for Harris, and very enticing to women who are the bulk of the animal rescue community. The guys, they all talk about, yeah, vote, vote. Women vote.
Right.
Women are the ones who vote. And if you can get a majority of the women, you are going to be the next mayor of the city of New York.
Let me acquaint some of my listeners with you. A lot of them don't know you as long as I've known you. You actually spent some of your early years in Chicago.
Yes.
And I've always been amused because I have a lot of friends and I have some family in Chicago, and they always tell me, that guy Curtis Sliwa, that accent he has, that's not Canarsie. That's back of the yards. That's straight out of Chicago.
That's right. It's a combination. So I was born in Brooklyn Hospital. Dr. Duckman, who was actually the father of the famous judge, remember?
Oh, yeah,
who released the guy who went out and killed the woman at Coppell's car dealership on Northern Boulevard, you know, because of the dog. He said, well, I got to go home to take care of the dog. And dopey Duckman released him. His father delivered me, hit me on my dupa, my tuchus, and I've been talking ever since. We went back to Chicago. My dad is a merchant seaman, 50 years. And so I was there for my first 5 years. 4-story walk-up, 46 in Rockwell. It was all Polish then. It's all Mexican now. So naturally, I was playing Zorro on the steps there. That was my favorite TV. The Stockyards, Kaminsky Park. My uncles hated the Yankees. It was humiliating to me because I love Mickey Mantle, and they booed him. And, it was a different culture. But that's my second city, Chicago. And then we came back to Brooklyn.
Why did they come back to Brooklyn?
We came back to Brooklyn because my dad had to go and ship out. Merchant seaman, 50 years. And, you had the lakes. And, he was tired of sailing out of, Lake Michigan, down the Mississippi. He left high school at 15. He was the oldest of 4, Depression. Sailed flatboats down the Mississippi, banana barges to Guatemala and Honduras from the port of New Orleans, and then joined the Merchant Mariners before World War II. That's where he met my mother, Francesca, in Brooklyn before he shipped out like so many others.
Fantastic, fantastic. So now you get into Brooklyn Prep, which is a somewhat legendary Catholic school. It's run by the Jesuits. It's a Catholic academy for boys. A lot of famous leaders came out of there. John Sexton, the president of NYU. My former boss, Arthur Brown, became the editor-in-chief of the New York Daily News. For those who know the name, there's Joseph Califano, who became a cabinet secretary, worked for Lyndon Johnson, worked for Jimmy Carter. And, Curtis Sliwa is on this leadership track. You're elected president of the senior class.
Well, let's go back a little. You mentioned John Sexton. Yeah. John Sexton was the debate coach for my oldest sister, Alita, in St. Brendan's while he was teaching at Brooklyn Prep by day. They would practice in the kitchen of my mom and dad's house in Canarsie. And he would say to my mother, one day when Curtis is old enough, you gotta give me a call. I'll try to get him into Brooklyn Tech. You had to take a special test. So I went to PS 114, Bildersee Junior High School. And then my mind began to start spending time chasing skirts instead of focusing on my baseball glove and studies. My mother said, I'm calling John Sexton. We're taking him up on that. We had to take the special test. I failed it. I think I blamed it on a mastoid ear infection. The headmaster, Alexander, Father Alexander, said, what is that? They gave me another test. I failed it. And then John Sexton pulled his legacy card. Said, I've never asked you for a favor. Jack Alexander, the headmaster, the prefect of discipline, already hated me. He knew I was going to be trouble. And Jack Alexander said, for you, John, you've been the #1 supporter of Brooklyn Prep Jesuit High School. I'll do it for you. But I have a feeling this guy Curtis is going to be on the outside looking in. First year, great. Second year, third year, I get elected student government president. And then there was a plebiscite that I called for, the wearing of jackets and ties. It was the tradition. They held me responsible, rightfully so. They actually gave me a warning, which is something they never do.
What you held a plebiscite about boys don't want to wear jackets and ties.
Right,
you know how that was going to go.
Well, not really. A little naive. Remember, don't trust anybody over 30. I was part of the anti-war movement. Yeah. The Berrigans would come in and speak to us. Because outside of the classroom, the Jesuits were very open-minded, very libertarian. They just wanted you to know everything. Inside the classroom, they were to the right of Ayatollah Khomeini. That's why you got a good education.
Right.
So I defied authority. There was no blowback. So they took away my student government presidency. I said, I'll organize underground. And one of these kids ratted me out. So all of a sudden, the prefect of discipline one day, who wanted me out in the worst way, drags me over to my locker. You got to clean out your locker. They were going to kick me to the curb, and I never looked back. I thought everybody would march out in solidarity. All these young men, some who I played football with, we went to battles with. They looked at me, it was like I was a leper in a leper colony.
Wow.
None of them called me. None of them ever. Now, later on in life, yes.
Yeah.
But, boy, I learned that there are consequences for actions. I never went back to school. I started working, pumping gas, packing shelves at AMP. I lived in Brownsville, Brooklyn from 1974 to 76. Boy, that was an experience. The only white guy there. Was married to Corinne Drayton at the time. I couldn't go back to Canarsie because I was married to a black woman. And the brothers there were, why are you coming into our community? me snacking on our woman. I was damned if you do, damned if you didn't. And then I moved to the Bronx. I figured, hey, the Bronx will accept me.
Right.
And they did, because the Bronx was burning, and I ended up becoming a night manager of Mickey D's.
Yeah, right. So you're the night manager at McDonald's. Crime is raging all around. You get the bright idea to organize some of your workers into a anti-crime squad?
Yep.
I don't know what you guys thought
I had
you
the
were
idea
doing.
in Brooklyn and Brownsville, but every time I would say something to a black guy, a white guy, gals guy, they looked at me like I had the furniture upstairs and rearranged in the wrong rooms. Like, you needed an observation in Kings County. Only the Bronx, it was so desperate. They said, yeah, well, we'll try it. And I started with my closing crew. They really had no choice. I gave them extra time on the clock. Ray Kroc, you paid for that. And then volunteers started coming into the lobby and joining up for the right reasons. But it was a baptism in fire. Ed Koch was opposed. He called us vigilantes, a gang. And then we were getting locked up by the NYPD, who did not want us out there. The unions were opposed to us.
Well, it has evolved over time. I mean, I remember back in the day, you guys would put hands on people. I mean, it was an active patrol.
It was the Warriors. If anybody wants to know what it's like, because, look, I say to the Zorhan Mandami people, because they have no idea, because most of the supporters there have only been in New York City 10 years. They come from other places, which is what New York City is. Yeah. So if you want to know what it was like when I started the Guardian Angels, get the cult movie classic, The Warriors. Now, it is embellished.
Yes.
But there were more gang members than cops back then. And there were gangs everywhere, and that's why we started, because gangs were preying on people on the subways, the parks, the streets.
The Jolly Stompers. And,
Right.
You know, all these
the
guys.
Tomahawks.
Yeah,
They were my nemesis in Brownsville. Oh, my God, Stone Avenue, which became Mother Gaston Boulevard. I remember the Tomahawks were chasing me, and feet don't fail me now. I had to go through the Linden Projects, and then eventually down Linden Boulevard, past the pink houses. It was rough stuff at that time.
Now, tell me when you got into radio. This is something I've never, somewhere in this, I think I went off to college or something. I came back, you're a big radio star. When and how did you get into that?
No, actually, we weren't. I'll tell you what, I was a regular guest, as was Lisa, my wife at the time, was there from the beginning of the Guardian Angels, a few months
Lisa
after.
Evers, everybody.
Right, on Channel 5 now.
Yeah.
And we would be the subject of being interviewed by all the big talk show hosts at that time. Bob Grant, Barry Gray, Barry Farber, you name it, they interviewed us. It's a lot different being a guest than being a host.
Yes.
And Bob Grant would go away on cruises like 8 times a year. He loved the cruises, right? He loved the extra bacon, you know.
Yeah.
And so he would actually say who he wanted to substitute. So he wanted me and Lisa. The suits at WABC, we like Lisa, but this street urchin, Curtis, he can't even understand half the things he's saying. And he said, and this was the classic line, he said, no, you want Curtis because he knows the streets and he knows where all the bones are buried and who buried them. And his will, because he was the big guy in radio, they hired us Angels in the Morning. We were horrible in the morning. And then all of a sudden, a guy named Hinckley at the Daily News, who used to write the radio and TV reviews.
David Hinckley, yes, good
They
guy.
were ready to fire us.
Yes.
And he wrote the Battling Bickersons, Talk Radio Returns Morning, Husband and Wife Team, Angels in the Morning. The Suits Uptown called the Suits Downtown. Oh, you finally have a morning team. And they were, yeah, that's right. We did an exhaustive research all over the country. Meantime, they were ready to sack us.
Yeah.
We happened to be at the right time in the right place, and it was Hinckley who really was the one who wrote a full-page piece, and that solidified us as a talk radio team in the morning.
Who did you use as your inspiration? Because you're a real professional now, and I know you didn't get the kind of training they give in classrooms. You must have been watching somebody pretty closely.
I listened to all the talk radio. I listened to WBAI, you know, in the anti-war years. They were great.
Freeform. They would just talk for hours.
We just lost Lenny Lopate. Remember, there was a time I got fired with Lisa when Rudy had just beaten David Dinkins, and he forced me on WNYC because he said, why is the city subsidizing a TV station and a radio station?
Right.
So they forced me on WNYC.
Public radio, Curtis Sliwa.
And this was after Brian Lair, right? And then Lenny Lopate would come on. on, and Lenny said, ladies and gentlemen, we have been forced to take on Curtis Sliwa, who's best known for reading comic books and magazine covers.
Thanks, Lenny.
And then...
That's your intro.
Oh, what? Oh, he ghettoed me. I said, well, Lenny, and he goes, I don't want to hear from you. I grew up in Williamsburg. I went to Eastern District. You went to the prestigious Brooklyn Prep. That's a prep school. He went off on me. Then, every month you got to raise money.
Yeah.
Listeners supported.
Yeah.
So the New York Times on Saturday gave me an extra $0. It made it seem like I outraised Brian Lair and Lenny Lopate, who raised a lot of money. And so then on Monday, they were in a rage. I said, I was told the old gray lady, the New York Times, never makes a mistake. Why can't you understand that some conservative people actually discovered public radio at WNYC and contributed to me staying here? Because without that, I wouldn't have a job.
You're expanding the audience. Exactly.
Oh, yeah, but there were protests against me. And then finally, they brought me back to WABC, which has been my place to be for most of 35 years of broadcasting.
Wow.
So I would say I listen to all the talk radio. Bob Grant had an influence, Barry Farber, Barry Gray, just some of the greats, and even people outside of the New York City sphere when I was organizing Guardian Angels, that I would listen to them. And you learn, and you take little aspects. It's theater of the mind late at night. It's rip and read during the day where you give the headlines and commentary, depending on what time you're on. But at WABC, there were times it was always broadcasting Curtis morning, noon, and night.
Yes. Yeah. No, I remember some of that when you'd be on like at 5 in the morning, and then you'd be doing the mid-morning thing, and then you'd be doing the drive in the afternoon. And I'm like, what is with this guy?
Talk radio.
What is with this guy?
No, but I couldn't get enough of that.
Yeah, I hear you.
And it's not just beating you over the head with an ideology. Most people listen to talk radio already believe that. They want a chorus,
That's right.
a choir to reaffirm. I was there to try to teach them things they didn't know about.
Sure.
And a talk radio listener, doesn't matter what their political ideology, appreciates that.
That's right. And then you famously, you had this segment, which I used to love, Mob Talk, right?
Yes,
Where
yes.
you would do the equivalent of the old Gangland column in the Daily News that my buddy Jerry Capisi used to
That's right,
write.
Jerry Capisi.
Yeah, and you would actually talk about, the mob wars that are going on in New York City. We have the 5 families. Everybody knows who the made men are. And they do have faction fights, and you were basically covering it like a sports announcer.
Well, Jerry Capisi, right?
Yeah.
Would tell me, you're going to get killed. John Miller, remember at NBC, he was the mob guy, follow Gotti saying, you're going to get killed with the things you're saying.
I used to listen to it, and I was like, he's going to get hurt.
And they tried to kill me.
Because you weren't just naming, like, big guys that everybody knew about, like John Gotti. You would identify members of the crew. You would talk about the restaurants that they were involved in and where they were stealing from and all kinds of stuff.
Which businesses they burnt for the insurance money, arson. I would mention, and the international crew tooled me up with baseball bats. Hey, Gotti Jr., wow, you had McLaughlin, the Irishman, Stephen Kaplan, the Jew, and you had Ruggiero, the Italian. They're so diverse now when they come to kill you. And so then they doubled down. And Gotti Sr. ordered his son while he was in prison. He said, you're the underboss. You whack him because he's talking about us. He's talking about your sister, you, me. I don't want to hear him anymore on the radio. Little did I realize they gave him an AM radio in prison that he could listen to me on.
Sure. And they put 5 slugs in you. 5
hollow point bullets in the back of a cab on June 19th, 1992, Michael Leonardi. 4 trials, 3 of which Judge Shira Shinlin, famous for her 12-year decision on stop and frisk, which she was right. A lot of people don't think, Curtis, no, she was absolutely right. But boy, she bent over backwards for John Gotti Jr., even sang happy birthday to him in front of the jury. But then on the sentencing, the gunman, Michael Leonardi, who thought he was only going to get 6 months for other crimes, I gave a victim impact statement. I should have gotten the Academy Award. Judge Shira Shinlin said, you're right, Curtis. He did that to you. Leonardi, 20 years, a hard time. His crowd there, all Gambino people, went absolutely nuts in the peanut gallery. He was only supposed to get 6 months, maybe 2 years. He did 20 years, and he's out now.
Wow.
I think he's driving a truck.
Wow.
I give him salutations and greetings over the microphone. I tell him, Errol, maybe you should go to Rodman's Neck, Leonardi. Maybe you should practice, your target. Because
dude, you got it.
Your first shot was supposed to hit me in the head and went right through the back window. Come on,
Curtis, you got kids, man. Come on,
I got 3 sons.
You got 3 sons, and you're on your 4th wife. You gotta tone it down a little bit.
Look at what's happened in this campaign. If you're a major party victor, which Zoran Mandami is, he now has NYPD intel protecting him 24 hours a day. They've offered it the second time, and I said, do me a favor, put them in the streets. We don't have enough cops. And Errol, I'm a street guy. Are you crazy? I'm going to be in an SUV with police assigned to me by Eric Adams. They'll have that SUV wired up like a Christmas tree. I'll need the kind of phones he has, the burner phones. He had 7 burner phones. They'll listen to everything I say and report it right back to Eric Adams. Now, Zoran Mandami, he's not a street guy. He's a trust fund guy, you know, socialist he is. He has no idea. He's in that SUV. They're listening to everything he says.
I don't know about the particulars, but I know just gossip alone, right? I know some of the people in the protective details, and the word filters out. And you hear what's been said, who did this, who lit up a joint, this, that, the other.
The driver knows everything. You know who was the driver for Nelson Rockefeller? George Pataki.
Oh, how about that?
George Pataki told me the story. He's a young guy, nervous, you know, the richest guy in the world, Governor Rockefeller. He would stay at hotels, and he would have a different gumare in every city, and he would have delivered, George Pataki had to deliver a bottle of Dubonnet and Oreo cookies. The richest guy in the world was drinking what street winos drink, Dubonnet, which as a kid, I tried the nastiest thing. And he'd have a gumare in every city. Now, the driver knows everything. Roger Goodell, who's the head of the NFL, was Pete Rozell's driver. The driver knows everything. Bernie Kerik was the driver for a candidate, second time around, Rudy Giuliani, when he was running against Mayor David Dinkins. You befriend. Eddie Caban was the driver for Eric Adams when he was borough president of Brooklyn. You bond with the driver, because sometimes the driver says, hey, boss, what's going on? And they become your pals, your friends. The driver knows everything.
Very
good, bad, and the ugly.
So you didn't want a driver. Okay, a wise choice, it sounds like.
My driver is the motorman on the subway.
Okay.
I have a conversation with the conductor.
Fair enough. What's your path to victory? How are you gonna do this?
Look, I start with 28% from the last election. I don't think most of them are going to leave me. The Republicans will come home, and I have even more independents than Republicans, because independents are twice the number of registered voters than the Republicans. And now, with the Protect the Animals line, first time ever in electoral politics, no-kill shelters and jail animal abusers, I figure I'll get another 4 or 5%. It's mostly women. But then I'm a contender. And if you've noticed the last 4 polls, if you look at a compilation, I'm the only one going up. Sort of, Zoran has hit a plateau. Cuomo's coming down a little bit. And Eric Adams, man, he has crashed. Every time Trump embraces Eric Adams, African-American people say, bye-bye. Against me, he got 90% of the black vote, which I would expect. He would potentially the second black mayor, and he did become the second black mayor. He's now down to 16%. Every time the president of the United States says, hey, Eric, jump. How hi, Mr. President. We're watching here on Zoom. We're all watching you from the White House. He is the puppet of Donald Trump now.
What kind of a Republican are you, in the sense that, you know, the leader of your party, who happens to be a New Yorker and in fact is president of the United States, doesn't talk about you and doesn't sound like you won his endorsement?
We've had a love-hate relationship over 30 years. Some love, some hate.
Oh, did he find his way into your radio discussion?
Well, you know, I figured J.D. Vance called him Hitler in 2016, and he became vice president. At times, he's very forgiving. But notice, he has said nice things about Eric, and it's hurt him in the polls. He said nice things about Cuomo because their families were very friendly, Mario and Fred. Please, Mr. President, don't say any nice things about me. Be Switzerland. Be neutral. Stay out of this race. You can't help. You can only hurt. New York City is not Trump land. Everywhere I go, and I've been in all 350 neighborhoods, he has pockets of support. But I'm going to win them anyway. I'm the Republican. But if he were to embrace me, I better go to Boca Raton and get a job hanging wallpaper without the red beret, because I won't have an opportunity to compete.
What becomes of the Republican Party, especially if you win? What's the role of the party in the city's politics, and what would you do if you would become, at that moment, the most powerful Republican probably in New York State?
Yeah, and that obviously leads to who might become governor next year. We assume Elise Stefanik has the inside on the GOP nomination. If she can get 33% of the New York City vote, like George Pataki did against Mario Cuomo, she'll be the next governor. She will unseat Hochul. So it's very important what I do. Everybody talks to governors. Hey, excuse me, ain't nobody going anywhere unless Curtis Sliwa does very well. Now, I intend on winning, but you got to put together a coalition of people. I'm not omnipotent. I don't know everything. I've dealt with de Blasio, Cuomo, and Adams. They do all the press conferences. They act like they know what they're talking about. Half the times I said, boy, that was pretty dumb and stupid. Let the people who really know about the subject matter talk. You have to sign off on it as mayor. But I believe that will be my strength. So that's more like Bloomberg. I watched him operate in the bullpen that he had set up. He delegated. Others, like Rudy, who I followed closely, he wanted to know every detail.
Sure.
Eric Adams is a control freak. Nothing gets done without him knowing it. And, you can't get an okay at 3 o'clock in the morning, at 4 o'clock in the morning, from the latest nightclub he's hanging out at, Con Sofrito in the Bronx. Oh, that's right. That's closed now. That's right.
So you're going to delegate. You're going to be more in the Bloomberg
Oh,
model.
you have to, because there's so many complicated issues, and you got to have a relationship with city council. Now, look, there are a lot of Democrats, liberals, progressives, and socialists there. I happen to have a relationship with Melinda Katz when she was city council person, head of land use, borough president. Now she is a district attorney. So I know how Democrats are. It's called discretionary money. You have to go into their districts. De Blasio did because he was a city councilman a little bit. Eric never does. You go in there, you take a beat down. You have a town hall meeting, they all scream at you, yell the worst things, fascist, let them get it out of their system. Then you go to a restaurant of the choice of the city council person, and you say, look, I know you need discretionary money. You have some capital improvement projects. How can I be of help? And this is all I want from you. I have this one issue that I need your help on. That's the way business is done, where they don't have to sacrifice their integrity. I don't have to sacrifice mine. And actually, you get to know the person. They actually say, he came into our district. He caught hell. He didn't have an asbestos suit on at that time. He took a lot of incoming. He sucked it up. He didn't start arguing. He listened. And some of the things he actually learned from. Then you can actually have some negotiations that are best in their interests, their constituency, 51 of them, and are in the best interest of everybody in the city. But I haven't seen that with de Blasio, and I certainly haven't seen that with Eric Adams. It's all adversarial.
And so all of this discussion, which I think is still going on, where people are saying between Cuomo, Adams, and Sliwa, the anti-Mamdani vote is going to get split 3 ways, and that, for any Democrat, is a path to victory. What do you make of that logic?
This was first proffered up by Jim 1% Walden, who is a surrogate for Cuomo. He's been an attorney for Cuomo. Everybody should get in a room in mid-September. Who's ever doing best in the poll, everybody should drop out. So first of all, that if it was going to happen, and I would never do that, that had to happen a long time ago. Right. We're all on the ballot. If you've gotten matching funds, you got to give it all back. Cuomo, he ain't giving it back. Jim Walden, the guy who first, he ain't giving it back. I can't afford to give it back. Eric can't qualify for matching funds any longer. But it's all specious. So let's look at the reality of what Cuomo's saying, who would be the beneficiary of that. Now, lately, he's saying, no, not the Republican. Errol, he won't say my name. Get him to say my name. Curtis Sliwa. But the Republican is a major party candidate. This would not apply to him. The 3 independents, we should play musical chairs. When the music stops, who's ever standing doing best in the polls, which would be him, should run. The other 2 should drop out. Eric is not dropping out.
Right.
I mean, he's mayor.
Right.
He loves being mayor.
That's right.
He's not dropping out. His ego would never allow him to do that.
Well, I mean, I know all of you guys, and I'm thinking it's like you couldn't get these guys to order lunch together. They're not going to put together something like this.
We hate one another. In fact, it's like mixing ammonia and bleach. I'll never forget the time that then Borough President Eric Adams was on with you, Errol. We need to go on a junket to New Orleans to see all the different things going on there to apply to Juve. The overnight celebration that leads into the West Indian Parade that you always see me in. And you said, what? And that's what I knew right there. Oh, my God, if this guy becomes mayor, hold on to the money in your pockets. This guy's going to pick your pocket. I'll never forget that moment. You called him out. He said, what do you mean go to New Orleans? Yeah.
Yeah, that was something.
But that was an indication of where his mind was going.
Oh, man. Well, listen,
lucky you didn't talk to him about Turkey, the 7 trips that he took there.
Don't even get me started on the Friendship Arch in Sunset Park that never got built, right? I don't know how much money.
Oh, Winnie Greco, she's still out there fundraising.
Yeah, it's amazing. Well, look, best of luck. We will see you out on the campaign trail. I enjoyed, I have to say, I don't know if I've ever said it publicly or if I've said it enough times, but the times that we worked together when you were a regular on the show, on my TV show, I thought it was like some of the highlights of my time here. Thought it was great television, thought it was wonderfully entertaining and funny. My bosses didn't think so. That's why we had to change it up. But
well, remember, it was all political satire.
Yes.
You, me, and Herson. And my number one fan when I did King Cuomo was your son.
Yeah.
I would be dressed like the monarch who he thinks he is.
I remember when you did that at the Democratic Convention.
Yes.
When Cuomo gets named as Democratic nominee for governor, he's worked his whole life for this moment.
Westchester, right?
Yeah, up in the Right Town Hilton. And it's the moment he's worked for his whole life. And suddenly there's this commotion, and I'm looking over here, and here's somebody with a crown on and a red cape and a scepter.
King Cuomo.
I am your king.
And there were reporters, unlike you understood the satire, took it very seriously, were reporting every word. And you and others would say, this is Curtis doing satire.
Right,
he loves to do, because people absorb info. But for people who want to know what I stand for, see, I've done this right. I haven't even given my website for information. Sliwa for NYPD. NYC.com, Sliwa for NYC.com. You can see the panoply of different issues, which, especially if you're liberal or progressive or Democrat, a lot of these positions I take will shock you and rock you to your political core. I'm not your traditional Republican.
True. Very true. We'll see you at the debate.
Oh, thank you, Errol.
Thanks a lot.
Appreciate it.
Okay. Do you want more conversations with the people who are shaping the future of New York City and beyond? Check out our New York One podcast channel in the description. And hit subscribe to let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth political coverage, elections, and issues.